Before the rich family opened one sleepy eye, their house had already begun its morning performance. The silver did not shine by itself. The fires did not politely wake up and light themselves, and the breakfast table, despite what the lady of the house may have believed, was not arranged by a very tasteful ghost. Somewhere below the grand staircase, long before sunrise, a kitchen maid named Elsie was already awake. She was 15 years old. She was small for her age. She had red hands from hot water, cold water, soap, ash, and almost every unpleasant thing a house could offer. If the mansion had a stomach, Elsie worked inside it. And before we step any deeper into the warm kitchens, cold corridors, and secret staircases of this Victorian house, tell me this. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Also, do not forget to subscribe to the Whispering Historian. It helps keep the candles burning, the servants gossiping, and the history quietly moving. Now, let us enter the house. The year is 1887. The house is called Ashcombe Hall. It sits in the English countryside, behind iron gates, gravel drives, and lawns so perfectly trimmed they look nervous. From the front, Ashcombe Hall seems peaceful. It has tall windows, pale stone walls, and a large entrance hall made to impress visitors. There are portraits of dead men in expensive coats. There are carpets thick enough to swallow footsteps. There are marble tables that no one would dare place a wet cup upon. But that is the house the guests see. The real house lives behind green baize doors. Behind those doors are narrow stairs, stone floors, steam, smoke, laundry shouting, whispering bells, buckets, black boots, tired feet, and 100 small rules. This is the world below stairs. It is not truly below every room, of course. Servants climb everywhere. They sleep in attics. They work in basements. They vanish into back corridors. They appear when needed, then disappear before being noticed. That was the trick. A good servant made life easy for the family. A perfect servant made it look as if no servant existed at all. Elsie did not feel invisible. She felt every bruise in her shoulders. Her day began before 5. The kitchen fire had been kept alive through the night, but only barely. It glowed like a tired red eye. Elsie knelt before it and fed it coal. The scuttle was heavy. The air was bitter at first, then smoky, then hot enough to make her cheeks burn. Mrs. Finch, the cook, came down shortly after. She was a wide woman with strong arms and a voice that could slice bread. "Not too much coal, girl," she said. "We are cooking breakfast, not melting the Queen's crown." Elsie lowered the shovel at once. "Yes, Mrs. Finch." Mrs. Finch ruled the kitchen like a general. Her kingdom smelled of flour, onions, beef stock, dripping tea leaves, and hot iron. She knew every pan by sound. She knew when bread was ready by tapping the crust. She could tell if a pudding would fail by looking at it for half a second. In another life, she might have commanded soldiers. In this life, she commanded saucepans. Above them, the family still slept beneath feather pillows. Lord Ashcombe and Lady Ashcombe had returned late from a dinner party. Their daughter, Miss Beatrice, had complained of a headache. Their son, young Mr. Henry, had come home from London with 3 trunks and 4 opinions about politics. All of them would need fires, all of them would need hot water, all of them would need breakfast, and none of them would ask how it happened. By 5:30, Clara, the housemaid, was already climbing the back stairs with a coal bucket. She was 18, pale, quick, and always trying not to yawn. She moved through the upper rooms like a shadow with a dust cloth. First came the grates. Each fireplace had to be cleaned. Ash had to be cleared. Coal had to be laid. The hearth had to look neat. In a rich Victorian house, even the ashes were expected to behave with dignity. Clara worked in the drawing room first. This was the grand room where guests admired paintings, played cards, and said things like, "How charming," even when they were bored out of their minds. She knelt in front of the fireplace and began. Ash dust clung to her cuffs. A dark smudge appeared near her cheek. She did not notice. There was no mirror in the drawing room for a girl like her. The mirrors were for ladies in silk. After the fire came the shutters. One by one, Clara opened them. Pale morning light entered the room. It touched velvet chairs, polished tables, porcelain vases, and a piano that no one had played well in years to guests. The room looked calm. To Clara, It looked like work waiting to happen. Every object needed dusting. Every cushion needed straightening. Every surface had to show care without showing effort. That was the strange beauty of the house. It demanded labor, then hid the labor. Downstairs, the bell board waited on the wall. It was a wooden board with small bells connected to rooms above. Each bell had a label: morning room, library, Lady Ashcombe's room, master bedroom, blue guest room, nursery, dressing room. When the bell rang, a servant knew where to go. The family did not need to shout. They pulled a cord. Somewhere below, metal trembled, and a human being hurried. At 6 o'clock, the servants' hall began to fill. The servants' hall was not grand, but it was their place. There was a long table, plain chairs, a clock, and a fire that was never quite warm enough for everyone. The lower servants ate there. They ate quickly. They spoke softly if senior servants were nearby. Rank mattered below stairs almost as much as it did above. At the top stood Mr. Harrow, the butler. He had silver hair, black clothes, and the expression of a man who had never once been surprised by soup. He controlled the wine cellar, the silver, the footmen, and the dignity of the household. Beside him in power was Mrs. Vale, the housekeeper. She governed the female servants, linen cupboards, household stores, keys, accounts, and many small mysteries. She wore a black dress and carried keys at her waist. Those keys made a soft sound when she walked. To Elsie, they sounded like authority. Below them came the cook, the lady's maid, the valet, the footman, the housemaids, the kitchen maids, the scullery maid, and the hall boy. Everyone had a place, everyone knew it, and if someone forgot, the house would remind them. Breakfast for the servants was plain. Bread, dripping tea, sometimes porridge, they ate before the family, not because they were more important, but because they had to work while the family ate. Elsie sat beside Nell, the scullery maid. Nell was 13. She had joined the household only 3 months before. Her hands were already rough. Her eyes were still curious, which was dangerous in a servant. "Do you think they really need 6 forks each at dinner?" Nell whispered. Elsie glanced toward Mrs. Vale. "Do not ask questions like that. I only wondered. That is how trouble starts." Nell looked down at her bread. Above stairs, the Ashcombe family owned paintings, horses, books, silver, land, and an alarming number of spoons. Below stairs, the servants owned small boxes. Most had brought one trunk or wooden box from home. Inside were their personal things: a spare apron, a ribbon, a letter, a prayer book, a broken comb, a coin saved for a future that felt far away. Elsie's box held 2 letters from her mother, 1 pair of stockings, and a little blue button from her younger brother's coat. She kept it wrapped in cloth. She had not seen her family in almost a year. Service gave her food, shelter, and wages, but it also took many things from her. It took her time. It took her privacy. It took her sleep. Sometimes it even took the feeling of being young. By 7, the house became louder. Not in the grand rooms, never there. The noise lived in the hidden parts of the house. Boots moved on the back stairs. Water sloshed inside heavy jugs. Cool buckets knocked against the walls. The kitchen range hissed. Mrs. Finch called for eggs. Thomas polished boots with serious focus. Mr. Harrow inspected the silver. Each spoon had to look perfect. In Lady Ashcombe's dressing room, Miss Bell prepared for her mistress to wake. Miss Bell was the lady's maid. She was not like Elsie or Nell. Her work was closer to the family. She touched silk dresses, lace collars, perfumes, gloves, brushes, and jewels. She also knew many secrets. A lady's maid had to understand fashion. She had to understand hair. She had to know when to speak. She also had to know when to stay silent. Miss Bell could read Lady Ashcombe's mood very quickly. A small sigh could mean trouble. A quiet look could change the whole morning. Lady Ashcombe's wardrobe was like a small empire. There were morning dresses, afternoon dresses, dinner gowns, and walking dresses. There were cloaks, gloves, ribbons, and hats. Some hats had feathers, some had ribbons. Some looked so dramatic that even a bird might have felt offended. Miss Bell checked every garment with care. A loose thread could become a complaint. A missing glove could become a crisis. A wrinkled sleeve could ruin the morning in a rich Victorian house. Comfort was not always the point. Rules mattered more. There were clothes for the right hour. There were rooms for the right activity. There were words for the right company. Even sadness had the proper fabric. A person could not simply grieve. They had to grieve in the correct color. Below stairs there were rules too. A kitchen maid did not sit in the housekeeper's chair. A footman did not argue with the butler. A housemaid did not walk through the front hall unless she was sent there. No one used the main staircase unless the house was on fire. Even then, Elsie suspected Mr. Harrow would prefer the back stairs at 8. The family breakfast began. The dining room shone in the morning light. The table was covered with white linen. Silver cutlery sat beside porcelain plates. There was butter, toast, eggs, ham, kedgeree, marmalade, and tea. Everything looked calm and effortless. Thomas, the footman, stood near the sideboard. His posture was straight. His face was calm inside. He was fighting the urge to sneeze. I hope you've fallen asleep by now. Sweet dreams, and see you in the next video.